The Autobahn Vaporization. The German Autobahn. It's a place of legend for car enthusiasts. Long stretches of pristine highway with no speed limit. A place where you can legally push a high-performance car to its absolute limits. But on a late evening in March 2019, a 68-year-old man in his Audi RS6 discovered the brutal, unforgiving physics of what happens when those limits are exceeded. He was traveling on the A81 near Stuttgart, a section of the Autobahn with no speed limit. Police estimate his speed was close to 200 miles per hour. At that speed, the world outside is a blur. Other cars seem to be standing still. A truck driver, likely misjudging the Audi's insane closing speed, pulled into the left lane to overtake another vehicle. The Audi driver swerved to avoid the truck, lost control, and the car was launched into a massive steel gantry holding up a highway sign. The result was not a crash. It was a disintegration. The car didn't just hit the steel pole, it wrapped itself around it, the force of the impact so extreme that the vehicle was torn into multiple, unrecognizable pieces. The term vaporized is often used, and looking at the photos of the wreckage, it's not an exaggeration. The driver's body was so completely destroyed that police couldn't visually identify him. They had to use DNA testing to confirm his identity. It's a chilling, almost abstract kind of death. A man and his machine, a marvel of German engineering, reduced to a mangled sculpture of steel and flesh in less than a second. The incident sparked another round of debate in Germany about whether the country's famous no-limit highways are still a good idea in an era of 600-horsepower family sedans. A brutal lesson in kinetic energy, a testament to the fact that no matter how safe your car is, the laws of physics are absolute. The firefighter's nightmare. Sometimes, the most painful stories aren't just about the victims. They're about the people left behind. The ones who have to clean up the mess. On October 25, 2013, on a dark country road in Cham, Netherlands, two 18-year-old friends, Dominique Geertz and Laura Adams, were driving in their small Ford Ka. Behind them, a 56-year-old man named Freddie was approaching in his Volvo, doing 78 miles per hour in a 50 miles per hour zone. He was heavily intoxicated. He didn't even brake. The Volvo slammed into the back of the Ford Ka, launching the small car off the road and into a tree. It burst into flames almost instantly. A few minutes later, the local volunteer fire department was called to the scene. The commander, Willeke Geertz, directed her team, helping to extinguish the fire, cutting the victims out of the wreckage, all the while maintaining her professional composure. She had no idea who was in the car. She was just doing her job. It was only when she returned to the fire station that she was told the car's license plate was registered to her daughter, Dominique. In that moment, her world collapsed. She had just spent an hour working on the car that had become her own daughter's coffin. The driver, Freddie, walked away with minor injuries. He was later sentenced to just 2 years in prison. In a move that sparked national outrage, he was even allowed to keep his license while appealing the sentence because his wife was terminally ill and he needed to drive her to the hospital. The story is a gut punch of cruel irony. A mother, a professional rescuer, forced to attend the scene of her own child's death. A drunk driver who took 2 young lives and received a sentence that many felt was a slap on the wrist. It's a story about a crash, but it's also about the wreckage that can't be cleared from the road. The grief, the anger, and the haunting memory of a mother trying to save her own daughter without even knowing it. Hold on and pray. Imagine you're driving a brand new car, a high-tech machine with all the latest safety features. Now imagine that car trying to kill you. On August 28, 2009, Mark Saylor, a 45-year-old California Highway Patrol officer, was driving a loaner Lexus ES350 with his family near San Diego. His wife Cleof, their 13-year-old daughter Mahala, and his brother-in-law, Chris Lestrella, were all in the car. The dealership had made a small, seemingly insignificant mistake. They had put the wrong floor mat in the car. An all-weather mat from a larger SUV, it was too big and it wasn't secured. While on the highway, that oversized floor mat slid forward and trapped the accelerator pedal. The car began to accelerate uncontrollably. Mark, a trained police officer, did everything he could. He stood on the brakes, but the powerful engine overpowered them, causing them to overheat and fade. The car reached speeds of over 120 miles per hour. In the back seat, Chris Lestrella called 911. The chilling recording captured the family's final, terrifying moments.
911 emergency, what are you reporting?
Yeah, we're in a Lexus.
I'm sorry, your cell phone's cutting out.
We're going north 125,
Mm-hmm.
and our accelerator stuck.
I'm sorry?
Our accelerator stuck. We're on 125 and we're in break.
Okay, northbound 125, where are you passing?
We are passing, where are we passing? We're going 120, Mission Gorge. We're in trouble. There's no brakes.
Okay.
Gorge, end freeway, half mile.
Okay, and you don't have the ability to, like, turn the vehicle off or anything?
We're approaching an intersection. We're approaching an intersection.
Okay.
We're approaching intersection. Hold on. Pray.
Okay.
Oh, shoot. Oh.
Okay. Hello?
The car hit another vehicle, launched through a fence, and crashed into a dry riverbed, bursting into flames. All 4 people inside were killed. The investigation revealed a fatal design flaw in the keyless ignition system. To turn off the engine while driving, you had to hold the power button down for 3 full seconds. A short press, the intuitive thing to do in a panic, did nothing. Mark Saylor, a man trained to handle high-speed situations, was helpless. The crash triggered a massive global recall of millions of Toyota and Lexus vehicles. The Saylor family's tragedy exposed a deadly flaw that had been overlooked by engineers and regulators. They received a $10 million settlement, but it was a hollow victory. A family of 4 wiped out by a piece of rubber. A horrifying reminder that sometimes the deadliest part of a car is the part you never even think about. The Guardrail Spear. Sometimes, a car crash is a mystery, not because of what happened, but because of why. In the pre-dawn hours of January 25, 2026, 36-year-old Gilberto Saustegui Maldonado was driving his Mercedes-Benz C300 on the I-10 freeway in West Covina, California. For reasons that investigators have never been able to determine, he pulled his car safely onto the right shoulder and stopped. Then, he put the car in reverse. He began driving backwards, on the shoulder, against the flow of freeway traffic. He first backed into a wooden sign that read, "Watch downhill speed." He kept going. Then, he backed into the end of a metal guardrail. The guardrail didn't stop the car. It acted like a spear. The metal beam penetrated the rear of the Mercedes, traveled the entire length of the car, and impaled Gilberto in the driver's seat, killing him instantly. The scene left investigators baffled. Why was he driving in reverse on a freeway? Was it a medical emergency? A bizarre, disoriented mistake? The car was on the shoulder, a place of relative safety. Instead, he chose the one inexplicable action that led directly to his death. It's a story that feels like a scene from a horror movie, a Final Destination-style sequence of events that seems too bizarre to be real. The crash shut down the freeway for hours as crews worked to untangle the car from the guardrail that had become its tomb. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner confirmed he died of blunt force injuries, a clinical, sterile description for a death that was anything but. A man who turned a place of safety into a death trap, for reasons that likely died with him inside his speared Mercedes. The Snowbank Ramp. Winter driving is treacherous. A patch of black ice, a sudden whiteout, can turn a routine commute into a life or death struggle. On a cold Thursday evening in January 2026, 31-year-old Jacinta Stevens was driving on the Parkway East in Pittsburgh. She lost control of her SUV, crossed several lanes of traffic, and hit a snowbank on the side of the road. Normally, a snowbank might cushion a crash, slowing a car down. But this snowbank, packed down and frozen solid by days of cold weather, acted like a ramp. a launch pad. Jacinta's SUV rode up the snowbank, went airborne over the concrete barrier, and plunged more than 100 feet into the icy Monongahela River below. The response was slow. There were no immediate 911 calls. It took time for rescue divers to gear up for the treacherous ice water conditions. By the time they reached her, she had been submerged for nearly an hour. They pulled her from the sunken vehicle and rushed her to the hospital, but it was too late. She died shortly after. It's a story of a freak accident, a perfect storm of winter conditions. The snow, which should have been a soft obstacle, became the instrument of her death, a ramp that sent her flying into a watery grave. It's a chilling reminder of how quickly things can go wrong on the road, especially in winter. How a simple loss of control can be magnified by the environment into a catastrophic, fatal event. The Fiery Entrapment. It's one of the primal fears of driving, being trapped in a burning car. On September 24th, 2025, on a highway in New Hampshire, that nightmare became a reality for 25-year-old Alexander C. Smith.
Hello.
Around 6 a.m., his 2019 Nissan Rogue slammed into the back of a disabled dump truck that was parked on the shoulder of the road. The truck was unoccupied. It was just a stationary metal wall. But the impact was enough. Alexander's SUV caught fire immediately. He was severely injured and trapped in the driver's seat. As the flames grew, several Good Samaritans, other drivers who saw the crash, pulled over and rushed to help. They managed to pull Alexander from the burning wreckage just before the entire vehicle was engulfed in flames. But it was too late. He was pronounced dead at the scene. He didn't die in a head-on collision with another moving vehicle. He died after hitting a parked, empty truck. A crash that, on its own, might have been survivable. But the fire, the entrapment, turned a survivable accident into a fatal one. It's a story that highlights the brutal randomness of car crashes, the chain of events that have to line up perfectly for a tragedy to occur. The mechanical failure of the dump truck, the early morning hour, the angle of the impact, the resulting fire. The Good Samaritans who stopped are the heroes of this story, strangers who ran towards danger to try and save a life. But even their bravery wasn't enough to overcome the chain of events that had been set in motion. A young man, dead on the side of the road, a victim of a crash that should have been a fender bender, but became a funeral pyre.